Namaste, ancient children of the kingdom. This is part 3 in my Healing Through Dreamscapes video. And I think I've saved the best for last. So, we're going to go back to childhood. And I have this scary dream where right here in the center of my heart, and of course I'm a child so I don't have breasts, but there's a little white worm that comes out from the center of my chest. And of course, I try to pull this thing out, and it's all creepy because, of course, when you try to pull it out, it is like a true parasite or worm. It retracts back in, and you can't get it. So, this dream wasn't as prevalent as the one I discussed in episode 1. But like I told you, I had 2 dreams. And so now we're going to explore that second dream. And I want to hyper speed now. And I would like to share with you my 2014 timeline. Now this begins in the beginning of 2014. And I didn't come on to Facebook or YouTube or the computer or any electronic intelligence until August of 2014. So we're going to start off in the winter. And I'm a Pisces. My birthday is February 25th. And on February 19th, the famous Dr. Dick Versendaal was coming to Ferguson. And Dr. Dick is known in the chiropractic community, and he is a visionary and a pioneer and the founder of a method called contact reflex analysis. A lot of us know about this in the healing community. We've seen it in a variety of different settings. So anyhow, Dr. Dick's coming to Ferguson, and I thought, you know what, it's my birthday. I want to find out what's, up. And so the first night, it's a free event at a great church here locally called St. Stephen's. And it was stormy that night, so there wasn't a whole lot of people there. And as I entered the church, I took a seat up close in the front, which I'm always going to do that kind of a thing. And listened to a couple gals talk smack. And it's always hard when you're in the healing community to hear somebody going burp, 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 but there they were, and I kind of put that out of my range and focused on Dr. Dick's book and read that before the story ever started. And so what's up with contact reflex analysis is pressure applied to the arm, a rating scale, 90 being ideal and 20 being super duper bad. So there were a couple people before me, and I could just feel that he was going to call me up. And so of course he got done with the guy in front of me. Oh, and let me mention this. Alright, so there's 2 people before I get called up there. And the first guy, he's an elderly, healthy, slim, Farmer Bob kind of dude. And basically Dr. Dick, he goes down in the history books as being a head researcher in the field of Lyme disease, tick bites, and inflammation. So he had told the old guy he was really healthy, but he got bit by a tick some odd years ago, and if he would use his supplement, that this guy would live to be 120. And Farmer Bob, he wasn't going to buy any supplements, and I get that, but that was cool. So anyhow, it's my turn, right? And when I went up on stage, he looked at me and he says, "What's wrong with you?" And I said, I've had a lot of heartbreak in my life, Dr. Dick, and my heart's took a lot of hits with my A blood type stress kind of problem, you know. And he says, you're going to be fine. And so he takes my arm, and boom, 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 down to 30 it goes. Now that's not good, guys. That's chronic inflammation. And of course, you know, you could be any size and have a chronic inflammation, but we tend to think of it, you know, in a certain type of a person, which is false program kind of thinking, but I'm as guilty as the next guy, I'll always admit it. So he told me that my bladder was chronically inflamed. And of course my reactive mind said, what are you talking about? I mean, I've got great bladder control, and you know, I have no problems with this. Well, let's go back to childhood, shall we? And of course this is flashing through my mind later. You know, my dad was king of the house, so if he was getting up, you better get out of the bathroom. Just wanted to bring that up about, you know, holding your bladder and learning how to be crammed in a box when you're little and deal with other people's reality. So, back to the story. He said, when I get done with you, your stomach will be as beautiful as your face. And he touched my face. And I said, ooh, Dr. Dick, you know, you are making me hot. I need to take my scarf off. And so that was the end of the show that night with Dr. Dick. And I was scheduled to go back the next morning. Now I'm going to pay for a one-on-one consultation and find out a little bit more about my long suffering. So, you know, we greeted each other and I went in. And I've never been adjusted or cracked by a chiropractor, and so of course this guy was an intuitive healer also, besides a famous doctor, and has many titles that I could, well, you guys can just look him up, but that's a whole other story. So he says, don't worry, I'm not going to crack you, you're way too messed up for that. I said, great. I said, you know, a long time ago I had a doctor named Tipu Sultan that told me that I was the healthiest sick person that he ever saw. And that goes back to the magnesium story with the IVs that I've spoken about on my YouTube channel. You can see how this all is a synchronicity building exercise where everything makes sense, even though the first time you hear it makes absolutely no sense. I completely understand. So, Dr. Dick takes my arm again, does the pump, it goes down to 30 again, and he looks at me and he says, look, he says, he goes, do you know the Bible story of Job? And I'm like, yeah. And so, we discussed that, and he said, well, you know what? He says, it's time for you to stop suffering, and what your problem is that you have Lyme disease, and you were bit by a tick carrying Lyme disease. And I said, you gotta be kidding. I said, now, I got a story for you. And so I proceeded to tell him this story. And so this is a, here again, very private story that I have not released till now, because it sounds, well, you know, when it first happened, I mean, I wasn't out on YouTube, was I? So, it's 2009, and I had the oddest pore. It was right here on my breast. And I just want to jump to the punchline so you don't turn off the TV channel, but I removed something out of there, and this is a story about that. So in my mind, it was always an implant And you know, implants are the biggest, most hottest gossip going right now on YouTube. And being the holistic stylist and being a hairdresser by trade, and I'm sure in many lifetimes that I worked with things like this. I mean, let's face it, I'm good with scissors, and I have a high skill for healing. So, anyhow, I'm going to remove this implant, you know, is where the story's going. And I proceed to tell him how this pore was bothering me, and it had been going on for several months. And I chose my double terminated Brazilian healing quartz. And of course, you know, these terminations, direct energy, you see. So this crystal we have is a very high vibration, and we can send energy in, and we can also draw things out. So I did a focus where I would hold the close, direct energy, not make contact or hurt or maul myself, you know, just work with this concept. And I did this for a while. So the one night I went down to the south side to pick up my daughter, and while I was waiting for her, that thing was driving me crazy. And so of course I was pushing on it and working with it, and I just made myself red and hard and swollen, and I was so just done with it because I don't want that, you know, scar. So when I got back to Ferguson, I told Smokey Joe and Chelsea that I was going in the bathroom, and if I didn't come out in a half hour, that they better come in and get me because I'm performing surgery. So I went in the bathroom, prayed, asked for healing, put my hands on it, and as I worked, stretching out and pushing in, something came out. And I know this is really creepy, so I ask you to imagine being me for a second, having the nightmare for 38 years about the worm coming out of the chest, and now here I have something coming out of my chest over here. Now, I drew it bigger for you, and I don't want you to get scared. And down at the bottom, there's a little itty bitty drawing of how small it actually was. So, here we go, okay? And it was white. At first, just the circle part of the head came to the surface. And, you know, I was kind of freaking out a little bit, right? So I had my tweezer, and I wanted to touch it to see like if it moved or if it growled or if it was squishy or if it would pop. And it was hard, like a silica bead. I was like, all right. So when I put the tweezer around it and removed it, pulled it out, it had these two hook arms, for real, and this hook tail. And so you can see down here is the little itty bitty actual size. I mean, it wasn't like this. So I tell Dr. Dick this story, and he looks at me like I'm nuttier than a fruitcake. And then we went back to the Job story about my suffering, and I'm really a good person, and no alien or anybody has put an implant in me. Now, I never thought it was an alien, and I never said that. So, with that being said, wise ones say that sometimes these implants are installed before we come into physicality, etheric. Other times, and you know, here's where you get into the creepy Illuminati stuff and all the spooky stories, that they actually install it into you once you get here by a traditional doctor. And Remember, my first doctor's name was Dr. Evil, so I'm not saying anything more. I'm just showing you the correlation in Sue's world. Yeah, so, Dr. Dick, I just had to keep messing with him. I said, so, okay, Dr. Dick, I can accept, for real, that I got bit by a tick, but are you telling me that I'm so silly that I didn't feel this tick walking across my chest and biting me and, let's say, injecting its young into me? Now, those of you in the medical community know that it's quite a common occurrence for us to have worms and parasites and, bugs that set up house in our physicality. But that's really just a completely freaky subject, to think that there are physical parasites that attach. But psychic vampires do it too, and one thing isn't any worse than the other. So at this point, everybody's wondering, how do we get rid of these crazy implants? But what Dr. Dick's protocol was to do is take a supplement called Cleanse, and it is a supplement that would work to help heal the body of viruses, and it would work through the liver to cleanse the liver. I mean, it's a great supplement for anyone, and it helps with, gas and with things that would lead you to have an inflamed condition. But let's also remember that 80% of disease starts with stress, and so I think from my situation of my lifetime that I was already chronically inflamed in a soul spirit manner, as the targeting tried to cram me into the box. Well, anyhow, a lot of people too that have Lyme disease run into a lot of health problems, and depression is surely one of them. A lot of mucus, sore throats, sinus headaches, and I just want to read you a little short thing. Lyme disease is on the rise in our region. There are 80 reported cases alone in Michigan, and in 2012, the CDC has warned that cases nationwide are extremely underreported. And the 30,000 cases that were registered last year may be closer to 300,000. So, just like this year, everybody's worried about the two kinds of poison mosquitoes you see. Anytime you get bit by a bug, what it will do is it will cause an inflammation and create a reaction in your body. And that's why, if you saw the YouTube on homeopathy, I suggest taking a tissue salt, melting it with a little bit of water, and applying it to the bite. We want to clean the bite immediately. That's what we do with homeopathy. It's an immediate solution to a problem, instead of waiting until you get a rotten hole in your arm and run to the doctor and get a dopey antibiotic. So, Dr. Dick, right? Okay. Now, we're going to go forward to Facebook time, when I come into my role to share these stories. I really wanted to thank Dr. Dick, and so I had typed up a whole, witness to our meeting and thanked him and everything on this. And it was on the computer, and I was trying to get it to move over to where it needs to go with Dr. Dick's secretary. And so I got antsy and I called the phone number. And a nice woman answered the phone. And, wow, I said, hey, I know Dr. Dick is a busy man. I'm sure he's not in right now, but by chance, would he be? I mean, could I talk to him? That'd be great. And if not, I'll leave a message. And she says, oh. She says, honey, Dr. Dick has passed. And I said, really? If you don't mind me asking, when was that? And she said, well, it was back in February on the 27th. And Dr. Dick lived in Michigan. So there was a snowstorm, and the highway dropped down from, say, 4 lanes to 3 or whatever the story was. And he met a violent passing, is what she told me. And I said to her, well, I saw Dr. Dick on February the 19th, and I've been thinking about him. And, we had that conversation. Okay. So now we know confirmation of spirit, because earlier on, when I was typing with my friend Larry Burke, I promised him a doctor story from 2014. And I find it very relevant that the man that was working on implant removals also passed in 2014. Always look at the important things in your life. They bring enlightenment, peace, and healing. Praise God. So, let's get to the best part of the story, shall we? I hope by now that you guys know a little bit about the phenomena that occurred on Facebook on September 1st, starting at midnight. If not, I suggest you go there and hear it there, because I cannot do it in the short time allowed, and we want to stay to the point. But let me just get a drink. Well, alright. So, when the phenomena happened, I was directly contacted via the computer by the galactic family and the forces here on the planet that work in conjunction with, and they spoke directly to me. Now, of course, when this happened, there were tears rolling down my eyes, my hands were in the air, I was praising God, and I was typing in the Universal Peace Covenant that the School of Metaphysics published some years ago that I had known about since I was a young woman. Well, after the intro to all you friends all around the world, all these great luminaries that have come together, this is the first time I met y'all. That was September 1st, when you asked me to like your page, remember? After that was done, and it was about 12:45, they brought up a video, and it was a whole playlist, but the first one was like a welcome. They actually used my name. And what I saw in my computer screen, of course, was a podium, and there was a chalkboard behind the podium, and nobody was standing in front of it, and there was no noise in the audience. But you got an idea that a very select group of people were there. They were told to be hush-hush, but you could hear them breathing and moving and things. So anyhow, this wild-haired man looks like he just got woke up out of bed, because it's about 1 in the morning. So the guy's all disheveled, and he comes up to the podium and he starts talking to his group, telling them how much fun it's going to be when they announce blah, 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 blah. And what he says is that the room is getting really hot and somebody needs to turn the air conditioning cooler. And I know that that was a direct signal to me to let me know that that was Dr. Dick. Now, I didn't know that Dr. Dick had passed by then because I actually called the woman at Dr. Dick's after that. And, you know, this is a lot of stuff to deal with in a year. And believe me, this is just the little capstone on the big pyramid, right? Well, you know, when this happened, of course, I'm trying to rationalize who is this man to me, because he must be somebody. And so I review my favorite men that were, you know, very important in my life. And of course, my OB-GYN that passed back right after he delivered my son in 2000, believe it or not. His name was Gerald Newport. I knew it wasn't him because Dr. Newport was of small stature and bald and Jewish and just a sweetie pie, and it wasn't the same voice. Now, Dr. Dick, he looked tremendously different when I met him in February than what he does here in this brochure, but you know, people change, and he was in his 80s, but he was a taller, slim man. And here in the picture, he had curly hair. When I met him, the hair was full, but it wasn't what I would call curly. And in the video, I mean, he didn't look like crazy wild like Einstein, but like I said, he looked like he just got up out of bed and he had to make this important announcement. So, I know in my heart of hearts that Dr. Dick and all these other people are working from the other side, and we're doing this acknowledge exchange because, you know, if you study twin flames, they'll say that a lot of the time that they do not incarnate on the planet at the same time. And, you know, of course, these are very important people in your life, but they only connect for a moment, and then the job is accomplished and they move on. But we send them love, and they send us love back. So, like we've learned in heart math and along the journey when we're breathing in, the idea is I am, and we're bringing in all the love that the universe is sending us. And when we exhale with the we are, we're going to send that same amount back out and grace Mother Earth, the people, the animals, the plants, the flowers, all of it, because we're at a critical time now. And I want to leave you with a thought. Look up what the meaning is of a scarab, and you will see that it is rejuvenation and everlasting life. You know, it was a blessing to get that implant out of me. And it's just another story, guys. But there's a whole lot more. So, thank you. Love and light from the Third Cosmic Ray, St. Louis, Missouri. Bye.